A red aura appeared around the meteorite and glowing light shot all over the platform. "Ooh, finally!" a prophet screamed. Jung Hee-won and Lee Hyung-sung quickly approached me. "Run away, what?" It was too late. The red aura spread across the platform and a faint veil surrounded the station. Now none of the prophets would be able to leave. The constellations protest against the excessive filtering. Many constellations' eyes are shining at the omen. The constellation prison of the golden headband is watching the situation with curious eyes. The constellation's secret plotter is expecting your brilliant strategy. Constellations were excited and sent me indirect messages. The most dangerous situation in the world of ways of survival was one where those constellations were partying. I asked the nervous Jung Min-sob, "Was number 1124 the one who suggested you gather here today?" "Huh, I don't know. We all agreed together." I felt clogged up, like someone fed me 10 sweet potatoes. I couldn't believe things had gone this far. Everyone moved behind me. I paid attention to the meteorite while protecting them. "Aren't we running away?" "We can't go. If you look behind, you can see a ward." "Huh? What ward?" I didn't answer as I stared at the meteorite in the center of the platform. Meteorite was the main event of the 5th scenario. The danger sleeping inside the meteorite would differ depending on the color, brightness, size, and type. However, the meteorite I was looking at now was one that should never hatch. They seemed confused because the meteorite that gave the star relic in the 3rd regression was bright red. I wonder what star relic will appear. That some prophets hadn't noticed yet and touched the meteorite. An omen of the 5th main scenario has appeared. Then the message popped up. What is this? Why suddenly the main scenario? The surface of the meteorite cracked and a red light poured out. The first thing the light touched was the prophet staring at the meteorite with wonder. The body of the prophet who lost his head slowly fell to the ground like a broken doll. "What's going on?" The prophet screamed and retreated, but they were already unable to escape the crisis. I took the party with me as I retreated to the edge and observed the situation. I remember seeing this type of meteorite in Ways of Survival, but it was tricky to know what would come out. Please don't let it be that disaster. The meteorite cracked and a red lava poured out. The surrounding platform burned and released a bad smell. Then the temperature of the air rose rapidly and breathing became painful. The surrounding environment was changing. A lava zone? It meant the 5th grade fire dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneal, has appeared. Fuck, what? The star relic! Several confused prophets belatedly used skills. However, the meteorite stretched out a long tail and caught a few escaping prophets. Ah! The body of the prophet that was caught by the tail suddenly burned up. Some prophets used skills to attack the tail, but their weapons started to melt. This monster! The meteorite was at most 2 meters in length, but the monster calling out from the gap was over 5 meters long. Jung Hee-won asked, "What the hell is this?" "It's a disaster." Disaster? The remainder of the meteorite split apart and a dragon species entered this dimension. A violent dragon that was just born. Despite being a deteriorated version of a hatchling, a dragon still reigned at the apex of all monsters. A 6th grade monster could wipe out all the prophets here, and this was a 5th grade fire dragon. "You Jungak-nim!" Some of the prophets called out to me, and all their attention was still focused this way. I frowned. This incident was caused by them, and yet they wanted me to solve it? Get back to the edges. Like an obedient puppy, everyone moved to the corner of the platform. The guys who were quick were already running upstairs from the platform. But, shit, there's a ward! The Lesser Dragon was a disaster. In a situation where a disaster appeared, the size of despair was different. At least it was the pattern I knew. Among Yu Jonguk's numerous regressions, he had definitely faced this guy. I looked at the party members. A hidden scenario will start soon. Hidden scenario? This is a guy who shouldn't have come out in the 4th scenario. It was an unusual difficulty, so there would soon be an intervention. In order to respond to this disaster, various benefits were needed in the 5th scenario. But now we had nothing. Something had to be given to balance us. Some constellations are complaining about the unusual scenario difficulty. Indeed. The next moment, sparks flew in the air and a small childlike presence appeared. It wasn't a low-grade dokibi like Bi-hyung. He wore a tidy suit with 2 little horns on his head. He was an impressive guy with a small lump protruding from his side pocket. I didn't know his name, but I knew what he was. He was an intermediate dokibi. This is difficult. How did you guys get this route? It was only installed recently. Once his voice rang out, the movements of the Lesser Dragon stopped. Indeed, it was possible for an intermediate dokibi to interfere in the scenario to this level. A disaster woke up in the 4th scenario? The emergence of an intermediate dokibi meant that the early scenarios had almost come to an end. As long as he took notice of this place, I would barely be able to see the contract benefits with Bi-hyung. Some constellations are poisonous, so I can't spare you. It is hard to downgrade the difficulty. His gaze focused on me. But this isn't right! We haven't cleared the 4th scenario! One prophet shouted. I could see the prophets around him quickly covering his mouth. There was nothing good about yelling at a dokibi right now. I've decided. I won't downgrade the difficulty. The prophets glared at the dokibi. There was only the sound of breathing. They had read Ways of Survival, so they would know. The dokibi couldn't overturn the laws. But they also knew this. Still, it won't be interesting if you all die this way. I'll use my discretion to change the scenario content. The dokibi was more talkative than I thought. The hidden scenario has arrived. The Lesser Dragon started moving again. The red leather-covered paws hit the floor of the platform. I avoided the scattered debris and looked at the scenario that had arrived. Hidden scenario. United, you die. Scattered, you die. Category, hidden. Difficulty, A. Clear conditions. Within the time limit, hunt down the lesser dragon Igneal or survive his attacks. Time limit, 20 minutes. Compensation, 3,000 coins. Failure, death. Hidden pieces are hidden in this mission. A 20-minute survival mission. From the title to the contents, it was ridiculous. Lee Hyung-sung asked, "Do we have to hunt him?" "No, don't even dream about it. This disaster is a disaster for a reason. Even the real Yu Zhongho couldn't catch a 5th grade fire dragon." I looked at the situation on the platform. Flowing flames started pouring out. Ah! Prophets caught in the flames turned to ashes. The walls burned by the flames melted and distorted terribly. He was slowly moving to this side. "Everyone, run counterclockwise!" I opened my mouth and ran ahead of the rotation direction. Fortunately, Jung Hee-won and Lee Hyung-sung followed me well. Jung Min-sum and Song Kook were a bit behind, but they still seemed okay. This time we avoided because I knew the pattern. The problem was that this type of attack wouldn't always occur. The 5th grade fire dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneal, is preparing the flames of destruction. It had started. We somehow avoided the general attack, but the crisis came now. "Look for a foothold." "Yes?" "Number 5 or 2 and 3. Anybody should quickly find something that adds up to 5. The hidden piece is activated. Numerical footholds are activated. Once the appropriate number of people enters the foothold, Absolute Shield can be activated in 10 seconds. Absolute Shield won't activate when the number on the foothold is exceeded." The prophets all heard the system message. At the same time, footholds the size of 2 Pyong appeared all over the station. "Footholds! There's a hidden piece!" I looked at the moving prophets and bit my lips. The giggling constellations reflected in their eyes. Why did many constellations protest against the difficulty of the scenario? It was simple. There was no fun in a story with only death. They didn't want ants being crushed by a giant. These guys wanted the ants to fight back to survive. In order to live, the ants would even bite at their own kin. Many constellations are watching the situation with excited eyes. Damn constellation scum. "Shit, go! The prophets who had called each other numbers in a friendly manner now wielded their weapons against each other in order to fight over the footholds with the number 1. Some prophets collapsed bleeding as they approached a foothold. The swift prophets were already stepping on the footholds, strengthening their alertness. I kept an eye on them. Someone had clearly planned this trap. Maybe they were the apostles. They knew the prophets would gather here and decide to use this opportunity to wipe out those who stopped reading early. It was a good idea. No matter how trivial information, the fewer who knew the future, the better. Usually the apostles would be laughing at the prophets from far away. If they were ordinary people, those who had read more than 50 chapters of a boring novel weren't normal. They called themselves apostles and were greedy enough to control the information. If they were intelligent enough to use the red meteor as a trap, wouldn't they know also how to overcome the disaster? If I was like this. "Representative Nim, there's no foothold." "There's nothing here." Jung Min-sub and Jung Hee-won cried out urgently. There were no footholds in the place where our party was located. "Oh, there is one here, but..." The foothold that was barely found had an ominous number. 4. In other words, only 4 people could survive on that platform, but our party had 5. The 5th grade dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneal, is using the flames of destruction. A huge spark started from the center of the platform and started to spread throughout the station. It was a lesser dragon's full attack skill. The heat was enough to burn my skin despite being so far away. If the shield wasn't activated now, my party would be destroyed. "Representative Nim!" Song Kook and Jung Min-sub trembled as they met my gaze. I grasped the handle of unbroken faith. At that moment, "Yu Jongok Nim!" I looked back and saw one prophet. The number 2 was written under his foothold. Despite the urgent situation, this man still looked relaxed. "Come this way!" This guy. A few memories passed by quickly. I ran towards him while shouting at the people behind him. "Activate the shield!" Absolute Shield is activated. Then the flames burned everything on the platform. If it touched me just a little bit, then I would have melted. "Whew, I'm glad." The man who triggered the shield with breathtaking timing sighed with relief. I asked him, "Who are you?" The man laughed lightly. "I'm disappointed. Have you already forgotten? I'm number 1168. About Asmodeus." I remembered. He was the one who spoke to me about Demon King Asmodeus. That isn't my question. The eyes of number 1168 shook. I hadn't thought about it before. The scene about the confrontation between Demon King Asmodeus and Yu Jongok. To be precise, the second regression Yu Jongok was one-sidedly beaten by the Demon King. It was a scene I remembered because I really liked it. However, this recollection didn't appear before chapter 50. I could say with certainty as the full reader of Ways of Survival. I pulled out my blade and opened my mouth. I will ask you again. Who are you? Due to the effect of your exclusive attribute, the memory effect of some seems to have increased. The story of Demon King Asmodeus appeared in exactly chapter 57 of Ways of Survival. A crack started to spread in this man's relaxed expression.